Good evening and thank you for joining us on this Friday, the last day of May 2019. This is NTV Weekend Edition. Tonight, no corruption case against Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu. Court says DCI is to blame.
That the DCI illegally obtained evidence against the petitioner.
An angry DPP and DCI read malice in ruling.
No party advanced any arguments on this point. How could we be expecting conviction, surely, if we obtained evidence illegally? What were we to present in the court in the first place?
Also tonight, not so fast. Salaries and Remuneration Commission files suit challenging new housing allowances for members of parliament. Plus, how far would you go to serve your customer? Food vendor serves while on her knees and has happy clients.
Wanafurahia kutukinini hivyo wanasema kwani wasichana wajimu kwa tabia mzuri.
And politics of whistleblowing.
Raila ndiye alipiga firimbi.
Siku hizi kupatikana mtu mjinga Kenya hii ni ngumu sana.
How to make an issue go away, a Kenyan politician's style.
I am not aware of what you are talking about, and it's a non-issue to me.
And when the self-confessed wretched gathered to praise. The amazing acts of pray and play on Bullseye.
This is NTV Weekend Edition with Edmond Nyabola.
Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Rafael Mbalo. Unfortunately, our top story is a sad one. 6 people have died in a road accident at Gede on the Malindi-Kilifi Road after a 14-seater matatu collided head-on with a trailer. Malindi Police Base Commander George Naibei said the matatu, which was traveling from Malindi to Mombasa, collided with the trailer belonging to Malindi Salt Works, killing 6 people on the spot. The injured victims were rushed to Malindi Sub-County Hospital in critical condition. Witnesses said the lorry, which was heading to Malindi, collided with the matatu after it lost control. Others said the lorry veered off the road before hitting the matatu. Police who arrived at the scene had a hard time controlling the crowd. Now, the High Court has ruled that Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu will not be tried over corruption allegations. In the ruling by a 5-judge bench, a declaration was made that Mwilu would not be prosecuted as the evidence by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations was obtained illegally. The bench stated that the DCI violated Mwilu's right to privacy by how it accessed her Imperial Bank account statements, as NTV's Mel Miendo reports.
Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu has survived prosecution after a 5-judge bench suppressed corruption charges against her, thus saving her from being tried in a court of justice. The 5-judge bench, comprising Justices Helen Omondi, William Musyoka, Mumbi Ngugi, Chacha Mwita and Francis Tuyot, ruled that the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, had no legal basis to indict Mwilu. They further argued that the Directorate of Criminal Investigations violated her rights to privacy when they gained access to her Imperial Bank Limited accounts without following due process.
But having found, however, that the DCI illegally obtained evidence against the petitioner by gaining access to her accounts with IBL through the use of a court order that had no bearing on her accounts, and having found that the DCI thereby misrepresented facts and misused the court order, we have come to the conclusion that the prosecution against the petitioner cannot proceed.
Mwilu was arrested by detectives in August 2018 and escorted by DCI Director George Kinoti for questioning at the DCI headquarters over alleged graft. Charges facing her related to credit transactions between her and Imperial Bank Limited and alleged failure to pay stamp duty on 4 properties she purchased between 2014 and 2016. However, in the ruling, the judges held that there was factual and legal basis for initiating of the charges and they were not defective for lack of a complainant. The bench said it cannot fault the DPP's decision to prosecute but showed dissatisfaction with the manner in which the DCI obtained its evidence.
In this case, we would say that the illegally obtained evidence was done in a manner that would then affect the administration of justice.
The verdict by the High Court was to determine whether the DPP can institute criminal proceedings when the Judicial Service Commission has taken no action against a sitting judge and whether the criminal prosecution of a sitting Supreme Court judge amounts to encroachment on the independence of the judiciary. It was further ruled that the decision by the DPP to prosecute was not tainted by any irrationality and that the manner of arrest by detectives was not a breach of the Constitution where the Deputy Chief Justice was concerned. The Judicial Service Commission, which is tasked to deal with issues of misconduct by judicial officers, is expected to give a way forward as the prosecution has stated it will appeal the High Court ruling. Mel Miendo, NTV.
And as you have just heard in Mel Miendo's report in our first story, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, will appeal the decision to reject a criminal prosecution for Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu. The DPP says the Constitutional Court failed to address the real issue of whether the Deputy Chief Justice should be criminally tried and instead focused on technicalities, which he says can also be explained, especially as regards the collection of evidence against Justice Mwilu. NTV's Charity Mwangi with the DPP and the DCI's reactions to Mwilu's escape.
Their faces bore it all. Utter disappointment with the derailment of their case on account of a technicality that they say was not even an issue in contention in the first place. The court earlier today ruled that the case against the Deputy Chief Justice be dropped as the DCI failed to appropriately conduct investigations into the matter.
We expected this. And we were prepared. We have our documents for appeal. We were ready, but the registry was closed. So next week, we'll be moving on that, and we'll also be moving to JSC.
The DCI's competence was questioned, sparking the director's anger.
How could we be expecting conviction, surely, if we obtained evidence illegally? What were we to present in the court in the first place? Could we have labored all this much, invested all this much, knowing very well we didn't have a case in the first place? Who was to testify on falsely acquired evidence?
They maintained that they had all the necessary documents and had anticipated that the issue would be brought up in trial.
We do have the warrants. If it was a question that we were supposed to address and it was prayed in those applications, then we would have placed it before the courts. But it was not. And we were not given that opportunity. But we do have them, and we followed the due process.
They are suspicious of the court that seemed to have ignored the issue before them and instead pursued what they called a non-issue.
People outside there are crying for justice. They are praying for us. Those are the people we are working for. I'm crying and doing work for those who are praying for us, not for those who are paying or doing some other things.
No retreat, no surrender, but rather an opportunity to regroup and make a second pursuit.
We, as ODPP, will be filing a complaint to the JSC on her conduct and at the same time appealing on this ruling that was issued today. This is the beginning of the journey, and what I can assure is we shall complete this journey. We are expecting more and even worse than what actually we have witnessed today.
The response presenting yet another landmark in the rapidly declining relationship between investigators and prosecutors on one hand and the judiciary on the other. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Away from that story, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has moved to court to challenge the decision by members of parliament to pay themselves monthly housing allowances. In the suit filed in court today, SRC wants the decision by the Parliamentary Service Commission reversed and members of parliament compelled to refund the money sent to their accounts in the form of allowances. SRC also wants the two houses of parliament found guilty of contravening the constitution. NTV's Silas Apollo has that report.
In a matter filed under certificate of urgency in court, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission argues that the decision by MPs to award themselves more money in the form of house allowances is not just selfish and greedy, but also illegal. SRC, which made good its promise to challenge the matter in court, now says that the pay as is will punch more holes into the country's already ballooning wage bill, as the taxpayer will be forced to fork out an additional 1.19 billion shillings per year to cater for the new expenses.
Order number 13.
The Commission is particularly angered by the failures by MPs to abide by guidelines set out on the awards of benefits to state and public officers, despite numerous warnings and reminders. The new allowances for MPs have elicited anger from the public, coming at a time when the Jubilee government has announced plans to implement austerity measures to curtail the growing expenditures. SRC wants the courts to find the two houses of parliament guilty of violating the constitution and MPs compelled to refund the allowances already received.
National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2019.
The suit follows the decision by the Parliamentary Service Commission to bulldoze proposals for the new pay and the payment of 250,000 shillings to each MP as house allowance, despite opposition from the SRC.
SRC should not tell Kenyans that they are concerned about the wage bill. They brought an amendment to the SRC Act to make them full-time. The salaries which are there, they are the same as those of the members of parliament. But they also give themselves housing benefits, house allowances. So really, what's good for the goose must be good for the gander.
SRC differs, saying MPs already enjoy hefty salaries and allowances, which are enough to cater for all of their expenses. Further, parliamentarians are entitled to mortgages whose rates are pocket-friendly. MPs had argued that their decision was pegged on the fact that state officers, such as the president, his deputy, governors and their deputies, and others are entitled to house benefits. But the Commission now says that the argument does not hold water, since the responsibilities of the said state officers differed from that of MPs. The Commission now wants further payments stopped, pending the hearing and the determination of the petition. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Away from the courts, and Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has today kicked off a countrywide inspection of schools to verify if publishers have distributed all the 12.3 million textbooks. The distribution exercise was actually started on April 28th and was to last until May the 15th. The books are meant to implement the competency-based curriculum.
Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha today led Ministry of Education officials in a countrywide inspection of schools. This is after the 2 weeks extension period issued by Magoha lapsed on Thursday. Speaking at Embu Urban Primary School, where he assessed the status of the distribution of 12.3 million competency-based curriculum textbooks, Magoha said he's impressed with the distribution exercise.
I think by and large, the majority of the books have been provided, but we are going to continue to do spot checks across the country, and where there have been challenges in terms of delivery, we are going to make good that challenge.
The books are meant to implement the competency-based curriculum CBC, which was rolled out in all schools in Kenya on January 3rd, 2019.
I've seen very happy children engaged. Each of them has a book. You are seeing the children being empowered to listen, to take part, to go and write, to discuss with the teacher. I think that's where we really have to go.
Meanwhile, Moran publishers are now seeking to partner with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to develop books written by experts in various sporting fields.
We've come up with a series of readers specifically on nurturing talents, where if a student is good in arts, they will read storybooks about arts. If it's good in sports, they will read storybooks on sports.
This was disclosed by Moran Publishers Sales Director while donating textbooks to pupils of Muthaiga Primary School in partnership with Muthaiga Golf Club.
And now something to look forward to on Saturday. Narok County will host this year's National Madaraka Day celebrations. NTV's Vincent Oduor joins us live from county number 33. Vincent, tell us, is Narok ready to host this event?
Absolutely, I can tell you it's all system go here at Narok Stadium in Narok County, which will host the 56th Madaraka Day to mark the historic day that Kenya attained its internal self-rule from the British colony. This is a 5,000-seater capacity stadium, and today during the day it was really a busy place as different groups of people camped here finalizing preparations with regards to what they will be doing tomorrow. And this includes those who with the responsibility of entertaining the guests tomorrow, those in charge of protocol, those in charge of seating arrangements, sound system. And today they spend the entire day finalizing on their preparations to make sure that everything goes well tomorrow. What I can also tell you is that really today security is really beefed up here in Narok town, and also in this Narok stadium and also areas surrounding the stadium, to make sure that everything will be well tomorrow. And there have been lots of activities in Narok town as business booms, and especially those people who are in the business of what we call hoteliers. They've been making a lot of money for the last few days, and especially today, because the hotels are fully booked and their costs have been tripled or doubled in most of the places. And right now getting even a place to spend the night is impossible because the hotels are fully booked. And personally, together with my colleague, including cinematographer Eric Sinta, we have no place to spend the night tonight, but the work has to go on. And therefore, this basically shows how this has improved and also benefited the area residents as they prepare to participate tomorrow in this event that will be presided over by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Earlier on, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i visited this stadium and also the office of the county's commissioner, where he officially opened it, and also used the opportunity to really condemn the perennial cattle rustling incidents that have been occurring in this county, and also talked about the importance of continuing with the process of vetting the Kenyan National Police Reservice and the National Police Reservice to make sure that the guns are in safe hands and with the disciplined people. And this is what he had to say earlier on.
Tutaendelea kuhakikisha kwamba tunawachunguza wale wote NPRs na KPRs. Tuhakikishe wale watu ambao tunapea majukumu mbalimbali ya usalama ni watu ambao sisi wenyewe tunawaamini na ni watu ambao wako na nidhamu. Mambo ya wizi wa mifugo, tusidanganyane hapa eti tuanze kusema uongo eti wizi wa mifugo ni mambo ya kidamaduni. Huo ni uongo mtupu. Wizi wa mifugo is a criminal racket that is happening here. We are going to have a tough security plan to sort out these people once and for all. Tuwatafute wote.
We appear to have lost Vincent Oduor, but he told us earlier there that preparations have been completed at the Narok Stadium and in Narok Town as we head to Madaraka Day celebrations on Saturday. NTV's coverage, by the way, begins at 9 a.m. We will be discussing last year's speech, what we expect the president to talk about, among other events expected to take place at the Narok Stadium for the 56th Madaraka Day celebrations. Now, in the last 2 weeks alone, there has been a stream of reports about suicide. These stories are, sadly, just a small representation of a bigger scourge afflicting the country. The World Health Organization estimates that 7,000 Kenyans attempt to take their own lives every year. Think about that. Many of them, unfortunately, do succeed. This Sunday, Sheila Sendeo delves into the very difficult subject. She takes a peek inside the battles raging in their minds, the pain of those left behind, and how those who have stared into the abyss are encouraging others to talk about their struggles with mental health. Here is a sneak peek.
aliniacha na mimba ya miezi 9. Hatukuwa na shida yoyote wakati ambapo aliniacha.
Niliacha kupiga duru na nikakata hiyo kamba nikamuralisha nione kama ako. Nikasikia ako baridi.
When you're trying to think about tomorrow and it's too painful to think about, when you're trying to think about dealing with the consequences of things that you've done, taking your life seems like a very easy exit.
Going to seek for help is a show of courage.
Do make a date with us this Sunday with that report. Sheila Sendeo talking about the cases of suicide in the country. Now let's take our first short break on NTV Weekend Edition. When we come back, we have that story about, the owner of a restaurant who kneels for her customers. You don't want to miss that. Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Now, Kenyans struggling with weight may acquire weight loss surgery at an affordable rate locally. The first patient to successfully undergo the procedure at a public hospital was discharged earlier today, bringing into focus the unspoken obesity problem in the country.
This picture was taken a few years ago. John Muthama was of average weight. He would increase to a mass of 176 kilos. His body mass index stood at a staggering 59.5 kilograms per meter squared. He had been diagnosed with class 3 obesity. His health was failing.
Kwa sababu nilikuwa wa hypertension, nikaenda hospitali nini, lakini uzito haikuwa inapunguka, ilikuwa inaenda juu.
Ilianza pole pole, hata wakati alikuwa amenona, mimi nilikuwa najipatia sifa ati nimepika vizuri sana. Sikujua ati ni mgonjwa, lakini mai tukakuja kugundua ni mgonjwa.
Anasema ni kukula chakula, lakini sioni kama ni chakula. Sioni kama mimi nakula kuliko watu wale.
66-year-old Muthama visited Kenyatta National Hospital, and on 7th May 2019, he underwent bariatric surgery, more specifically sleeve gastrectomy, which involved the removal of 80% of his stomach, leaving a tube-shaped stomach.
It's not a one-off affair. It's something you need to follow up even for longer times, because it's known at 3 years, if you are not following up this patient, and if he goes back to initial eating habits, this weight will start coming back.
The doctors say that natural weight loss methods and lifestyle management to prevent excessive weight gain is the safest approach. But for some people, surgery is useful as a last resort.
For 6 years, he's tried dieting, nothing. You know, you ask these patients, they tell you, I don't even eat much, I only eat little. But what is little to him, for you, is a lot. So they maintain. So all the other techniques, exercise, dieting, using some people are using herbs, all these things, they failed. And he came crying and saying, please operate me.
According to the surgeon, cases of obesity are increasing on account of poor diet and living a sedentary life.
More than 15% of Kenyans are actually suffering from obesity. 15%. And truth also be said, more than 50 operations have been done every year in this country. We are talking about the same operation. More than 50 are done in this country per year, and more than 100 Kenyans travel abroad every year for these surgeries. The cost of doing bariatric surgery out there is anywhere close to 1.5 million Kenya shillings. How many Kenyans can afford 1.5 million Kenya shillings? Very few of us.
The patient is expected to be discharged today. Since the surgery, he has been able to lose 10 kilos. He is expected to lose a lot more in the next couple of months. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now that is something I'm sure will come as a relief for many people. Now, customer is king is the age-old business mantra, stressing the importance of customer satisfaction. And Stella Mtenyo, a food vendor, strongly believes in providing her customers with a great experience by incorporating cultural mannerisms into her craft. And by always putting clients first, Stella has managed to run a successful restaurant in Kiambu town. NTV's Helen Aura joined her as she went about her business.
Stella Mtenyo, a food vendor in Kiambu town, has customer service that is a notch above the rest, according to her clients. For Stella, this is how she was brought up.
Si hivyo vile tulilelewa hivyo. Tulilelewa, unajua kwetu mtoto akisaliwa huwa anaanzia chini. Analelewa kama kanajua wananil time, kwa sababu si ati mtu mkubwa peke yake. Hata ndio naonanga ati pea mtoto heshima, pia mama akupe heshima.
Alafu pia service yake is very good, jua ni mtu ambaye at least ako na heshima. Yaani unajua kileta hiyo chakula kile pia una appreciate, unaona enyewe pia amejituma kwa ile kazi yake. Unajua hizi hoteli zingine mtu anakuleta chakula anakuweka tu pale pap na anatoka anaenda.
Stella's menu consists of ugali and omena, or ugali and fish, and is quite popular considering other food vendors in the area serve the same type of food. She says she gets her fish from Gikomba, making early morning trips to the market to buy the freshest fish.
Hizi biashara nilikuwa najulia nyumbani kama kuchoma samaki. Nilikuwa najua nyumbani kwa sababu huwa samaki ndio huwa chakula ya mboka ya nyumbani.
Kama ya nyumbani nimekula sahi, ile omena ambayo nimekula haina ukali yote. So it's very different na zile zingine zenye huwa unatumia kwa nyumba. Hadi huwa namwambia hata nilete bibi yake hapa amfunze kidogo kupika omena juu ni tamu sana.
Stella, who runs the business with the help of her 2 sisters, was forced to start fending for herself, her 2 children and her siblings after the death of their father. She came to Kiambu in 2017 as a house help through the help of a relative.
Nikaona kama respect yenye tulikuwa nayo ikapotea. Sababu utanini kwa bwana yake, utaona kama anataka kunichukua bwana ama nini. Nikaona kama tuko tofauti.
After looking for opportunities, she decided to start her own business. Just like any other business, she has faced some backlash due to her peculiar way of service.
Kuna wanawake wengine hawatuelewi, wanaona kama tukiinama hivyo tutachukua wazee wao.
Stella is hopeful that her business will expand as she plans to relocate to a bigger space to create room for her clientele. Whether this is a custom that Kenyan ladies would be willing to adopt is a story for another day. But for now, Stella seems to be raking in profits on account of her humility. Helen Aura, NTV.
I'm sure most Kenyans might find that a bit strange, but that is respect the Ugandan way. Now let's cover a bit of politics. The Political Parties Dispute Tribunal has overturned the decision by the ODM party to expel Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa from the party. The tribunal has termed the action taken by the Orange Party to oust Jumwa as unprocedural since it violated the Political Parties Act in the party's constitution. NTV's Helen Wanjohi has the details.
In its decision, the Political Parties Tribunal says that the expulsion of Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa was not done in line with the law. The tribunal says the party is guilty of failing to give Jumwa a chance to defend herself as stipulated by the Political Parties Act. The tribunal further says that the team that decided on the fate of Jumwa was not properly constituted, hence making its report invalid and with no legal backing. Jumwa was expelled from ODM in February after the party's National Governing Council ratified the party's Executive Council's decision to kick out Jumwa. Her expulsion was linked to her close association with Deputy President William Ruto. She, however, sought the intervention of the tribunal through her lawyer and Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen.
Siwezi kupeana mkono kule juu, lakini hapa chini kuna hasila mwenzangu nami ninamkumbatia. Mabaya hayo. Si kila mtu huenda kwa saizi yake. Sasa mimi dhambi niloifanya ni ipi?
The National Governing Council of ODM has resolved unanimously to ratify the decision of the National Executive Council that the said Member of Parliament be expelled from the party as per the recommendations of the disciplinary committee.
The tribunal has further directed ODM to conduct a fresh disciplinary process against Jumwa should it wish to do so, but with a properly constituted disciplinary committee and in accordance with the rule of law, natural justice and the party's constitution. Helen Wanjohi, NTV.
Deputy President William Ruto is asking leaders to work as a team and prioritize development needs and solving problems that face Kenyans. Speaking at Nyamira Catholic Parish in Nyamira County on Friday, the Deputy President said his tours across the country are to ensure no part of the nation is left behind in terms of development. The DP is urging Kenyans to focus on building a harmonious, prosperous nation through hard work, adding that the Jubilee government will continue to serve all Kenyans irrespective of political persuasion or ethnicity. He laid a foundation stone for a technical training institute and opened a CDF office in Mugirango West constituency.
Kama watoto hawajasoma, hawajaenda vijana hawa technical training college hawana kazi, Nyamira hii itabadilika kweli? Itabadilishwa na kitendawili? ati kitendawili hapa, sijui story pale, sijui nini, hadithi, hekaya ya Bunwas, sijui. Hiyo dunia ni dunia ambayo itapotea.
Now, what have you been looking for online? Love, money, new ways to do your hobby? Well, according to Google, Kenyans have been searching for a whole bunch of things in the month of May. And when you take a close look at them, you see the state of the economy. Let's have a look, because Dan Mwangi, our business anchor, is also joining me with this interesting stuff.
You know, let me ask you, what do you look for most online when you search?
How to do things.
How to do things?
Yes.
Let's see the kind of things you look at. We'll get into the how to do list, but first let's begin with just the first general, searches. And the first one, and I bet you had an idea what it is.
See what you did, sir.
Betting apps. Guys are betting, and this is really, like we said, showing the kind of things that people are looking, the economy, the state of the economy.
Exactly. The first two are actually about betting, and it's because of the new laws that are being proposed by the Interior Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, the betting clause, because that was what was in the news, and so people are really looking to get information on that. Number 3.
iTax, because the deadline for filing your returns is about...
It's just a month to go. Have you filed your returns?
No, I haven't. I'm one of those Kenyans, Dan.
Me, I'm a Kenyan.
Me too.
All right. Number 4 is the Huduma number deadline. And this is something that passed. This was about the mass registration. And this is something that people are really looking at. We know the president extended it at a point. And so this was something that was really searched for in this month. And
luckily, the deadline, of course, came about, and hopefully everyone was required to register. Game of Thrones, the final episode, just a week or so ago.
Well, I have no thrones to be gaming on. I am not a fan. I don't know what happens. I see it a lot on the timeline, but,
yes,
I still got it going on.
Oh, Dan, you have words.
Personalities such as the top ones, Meghan Markle.
Markle, because of, she delivered. I'm trying to look for the kindest words on this.
Yeah, she got a baby, and so it's a big deal to many people when the royal family gets a baby or has an event of sorts. The second one is
to the throne, by the way.
7th to the throne.
Yes.
I don't know what the big deal is, but anyway, let's go on.
The English will tell you. Binyavanga Wainaina, who passed away a couple of days ago, of course, a renowned Kenyan writer who's even won the Kane Prize for African writing.
Yes, and also there was also debate about because of his sexual choices in terms of orientation and the like. We have Reginald Mengi,
a Tanzanian billionaire businessman who died as well in Dubai. That happened like earlier this month, I think.
Yeah, people really wanted to know who he is, or like this billionaire who's died.
Yes.
Then there's Mose Fan.
Papa Lulu.
Yeah, I remember you sang.
He's also a musician as well, who died earlier this month, and of course that song being very popular, most Kenyans searched for him online.
And Uhuru Kenyatta, because people thought the president was missing. Those are the top 5 people who are searched. And the how-to, what Edmond does, number 1?
Definitely did not search on how to make money online, not that.
Not to how to write a CV. I did not. No, I did not. I'll be honest. How to write a CV, how to write an application letter, how to file KRA returns, and 5.
I did that. How to file KRA returns and how to.
But you still didn't file.
I haven't. Still, searches have not been successful.
And number 5, the 5th most searched how-to in Kenya is how to cook pilau. Maybe someone is trying to host a wedding.
I wonder how many people are doing that. Come on.
No, I'm talking about pilau. Cooking pilau, not hosting people for pilau.
All right. That's all the searches you made in May in Google. On Google. Done.
Yeah, we take a short break. But first, coming up. Now, what's on your screen? The site. It's quite a site, isn't it? This is the Nairobi terminus of the standard gauge railway. 2 years into operation. The structure does look good, especially from this aerial view. But the financials don't look too pretty. We'll give you the details on business next.
What are the odds that on the day nature calls the loudest?
Standard Gauge Railway, or SGR, is celebrating 2 years since it began operations between Nairobi and Mombasa, having ferried at least 4 million passengers and 382,000 containers over the period, according to the government. However, concerns on the economic viability of the project remain even as the government defends its poor financial position. Victor Kiprop kicks off our journey on this business bulletin.
Kenya's most expensive infrastructure project, the Standard Gauge Railway, is now 2 years old, but the economic value generated by the project and its ability to run itself remains heavily contested. At a press briefing in Nairobi this afternoon, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia said a look at the financials of the railway as a way of assessing its economic viability is unreliable.
If you look at the P&L for an airline or a railway company, it will not give you the true picture, because we invest in these sectors for different reasons. There are some intangible values which you will not find on the balance sheet or the P&L. For example, the impact on tourism. You cannot transfer that value to the balance sheet of this SGR.
Construction of the 472-kilometer stretch from Mombasa to Nairobi cost the Kenyan taxpayer at least 327 billion shillings and still gobbles up to 1 billion shillings every month in operating costs. Further, the ability of the project to break even remains in question. Last week, data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicated that the SGR generated 5.7 billion shillings in revenue in its first year of operation, way lower than the 10.3 billion shillings which was announced in March. Inability to generate profits or break even means the debt-funded project sinks deeper in debt with every trip it makes.
The P&L of a railway service is meaningless. What is important is the service is providing. That's what you must be looking at. Let's not confuse matters by saying SGR is loss-making. That does not make sense at all to say that. What is important is to say, is it serving the Kenyans? Is it serving the purpose for which it was set up?
The second phase of the Standard Gauge Railway between Nairobi to Naivasha is 90% complete, while Phase 2C to Kisumu has been temporarily halted. Meanwhile, the government is set to begin repayment of the principal SGR loans in January next year, further raising the country's annual debt obligations to China, which stood at 15 billion shillings in the 6 months to December 2018. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
The cost of living in the month of May is slightly from April, with the Kenya Bureau of Standards reporting that inflation fell to 5.49%. KNBS says the drop was largely due to lower food prices during the month. And while the price of most vegetables recorded decreases of up to 10%, some food items such as maize grains, sifted flour and sugar recorded increased prices in the same month. The year-on-year food inflation decreased from 8.17% in April 2019 to 6.33% in May 2019. Now, the astronomical cost of land in Kenya is driving away investors and needs to be addressed. That's according to the African Union High Representative for Infrastructure and Development in Africa and ODM leader Raila Odinga. Raila says Kenya is doing badly compared to neighboring countries and needs to address this to attract investment to the country.
In China, of course, the government was able to give large tracts of land for this development. Here, of course, land has to be bought. And as Hing has mentioned, the cost of land in this country, unless it is properly addressed, will scare away investors in our country. This is an issue of great national importance that must be addressed. Why do investors troop to Tanzania? Because Tanzania, the whole land belongs to government. And you want so much land, they just go and tell you how many, 5,000 acres, take it.
Now, Kenya may have a strong reputation as an early adopter of technological trends, but when it comes to co-working spaces, which have spread in different parts of the world, the uptake is virtually non-existent. Co-working now is a concept in which workers from different companies or startups rent a common office space which has shared facilities. Here's Alex Mwangi with more on the global trend that's yet to gain traction in Kenya.
The concept of sharing an office space with a stranger may perhaps explain why co-working is yet to take root in Kenya. Co-working, however, has its advantages, chief among them being the reduction of operational costs.
Across the board, you could apply between 25 to 30% benefit to a business for using flexible space over traditional space. In big cities like London and New York, roughly 20% of all new real estate that comes into the market, office real estate, gets taken by people like us, like Workable.
I don't want to tie up my money in capacity. I don't want to tie up my money in a car that is so expensive to park in a basement in Manhattan. I want to have Uber, right? I don't want to go and spend all this money at a hotel. I want to do Airbnb. And so this whole issue of as a service is growing. I see it as IBM.
Globally, the office shared industry is estimated to be worth over $100 billion. WeWork, a startup which was launched in 2010 and which has grown to become one of the most valuable startups, is the most renowned provider of co-working space. The company is currently pursuing a credit line of $2.75 billion as a precursor to an initial public offer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Workable Nairobi.
Workable Co-work Nairobi has now dipped its hat into the ring in the co-working space in Nairobi in a bid to attract tech-savvy entrepreneurs or small and medium enterprises and meet the burgeoning demand for those willing to work in a flexible space.
We're seeing it change in Nairobi, but we're probably a little behind the curve. What we offer, which traditional real estate doesn't, is flexibility. But the proportion of flexible space in Nairobi, our estimate is less than 1%. You look at a city like London, it's over 5% of millions and millions and millions of square feet.
Workable Co-work Nairobi has launched a co-working hub at Sanlam Tower in Westlands. The 12,000 square feet facility has 19 private office studios that can accommodate 110 people in a variety of configurations, and also has 2 meeting rooms, an in-house cafe, and an all-weather events terrace. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Speaking of shared workspaces, let's talk about food, then allow Bullseye and Sports to come in. One of the greatest challenges that farmers face is the lack of accurate measurements for their produce. This oftentimes means that they get paid less than they deserve because the scales used are not accurate. As Mati Mora reports, some tea factories in Murang'a County have started adopting digital scales.
The relationship between dealers in the tea industry and farmers continue to sour, as farmers accuse the dealers and factories of collaborating with clerks to steal from them by reducing the weight of their tea using faulty scales. Some farmers in central Kenya have been uprooting their tea bushes, citing low returns. But now, they say, there is hope as factories begin adopting digital scales.
Nikiangalia system na kitambo, sasa pesa zangu zitaongezeka kwa sababu hakuna kilo inapotea hata moja. Mtu anatoka akiwa na confidence kilo zile amechuna. Kwa hivyo hakuna kilo ya mtu itapotea hata moja kama pale mbeleni ziko zinapotea sana.
Na iko sawa kwa sababu iko na haraka.
Hakuna argument mtagobana na karani ama uende factory mkosane na mtu kwa ajili kila kitu unaletewa. Unaona wewe mwenyewe vile ulipima na kila bag unaona ilikuwa na kilo ngapi. Kwa hivyo unakuwa ate na uhakika ate kama ulikuwa na bag 5 hutasema ate ingine alikata.
Gashege Tea Factory in Kiambu County is among those automating the weighing of tea and has installed personal digital assistant software at all its 61 tea buying centers to serve the 4,600 farmers in the area.
And we've recently introduced a farmer's card. A farmer's card which looks like an ATM card. So this captures the information of the farmer, and when the farmer comes to weigh their leaf, we are able to get the kilos on the card. The system has been inbuilt such that you are able to get the GPS location of the buying center. So it's not easy to buy a leaf when you're not at the buying center. We'll be able to note the anomalies that are off the buying center GPS. The farmer will also be able to get us a solution when we need to communicate. We are able to do bulk SMSs.
Upon delivery, the PDA automatically captures the weight of the tea into its memory, which is then automatically transferred from the PDA to the servers at the factory. This without manual intervention. This is part of the ongoing reforms within the tea industry, designed to improve the earnings of the small-scale farmers by eradicating fraud.
Manual entries are very easy to tamper with. So that's one big plus for the digital systems, where these kilos gets transmitted to the factory directly. There is no human interference.
The shift to automation has also eased record keeping, that newly registered or transferred growers are included.
We are able to see the actual time the farmer was visited, the advisory services which were given, and with that we want to ensure that the program is sustainable and it is going to improve the grower productivity, because you'll be able to get the actual information on time.
According to KTDA, the solution is currently fully operational in 30 factories across the country, but that number will rise to 45 before the end of the year.
In the near future, we'll utilize it to introduce mobile payments to the farmers.
Martin Mora, NTV, Kiambu County.
You know, it's the weekend, and this one we have many weddings. So we have done, 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 done. Those are 4 dones. I'm done. Business is done. The week is done. The month of May is done. Good night.
Kujimoto hapo na kujipodo.
Dakika moja tu na
Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Now, prayer and play are both good for body and soul, but in Kenya, we have been doing so much of the praying that it's now all amounting to playing. It was prayer time again, and amid all the off-key tunes and belching after the heavy breakfast, the sins of omission and commission remained unacknowledged. Strange job offers were made and rags to riches stories told, albeit emotionally. But as Aisha Jumwa now reports on Bullseye, just like the gold, all these appear to be fake, if history is anything to go by.
There comes Weta. Weta, Weta, a moment please. There you are, finally.
I am here because I'm here.
That's good. In fact, it's the golden moment you've been waiting for. Now tell us, the gold, Senator.
I am not aware of what you are talking about, and it's a known issue to me, and I don't want to engage in it.
But there is this, Senator.
Who will communicate it to me?
Through either Raila's people or through Zahir, to send your vessel to come and pick the items. I've just told you it's a known issue, and I don't want to engage in discussing a known issue.
Weta has refused, and one would think gold would make one proud, excited. Let's try Baba.
Raila ndiye alipiga firimbi.
See? Trust Baba to always come up with the solution to a puzzle. Thank you, Baba. Thank you.
Hao jamaa ambayo walikuwa wameibiwa pesa yao walikuja wakaniuliza wana shida. Na mimi nilipoona ukora hii, ni mimi nilipeleka maneno nikasema hii uchunguzi ifanyike.
Siku hizi kupatikana mtu mjinga Kenya hii ni ngumu sana.
What do you mean? Do you also know something about these gold manenos?
When we negotiated for him the AU position, it didn't include prospecting for minerals or sale or merchandise of any gold of any nature.
Raila mambo ya dhahabu. Raila unaweza kuingia mambo ya uwizi ya dhahabu.
Let's hear Baba's full story. What and how did Baba get connected with this golden affair?
Mimi nilikweko wakati jamaa wamepiga simu nasema wako na Matiang'i. Na mimi nikamwambia jamaa mwambie yeye aweke Matiang'i kwa simu. Nilipoweka Matiang'i, naongea na Matiang'i, hiyo sio sauti ya Matiang'i.
Tukamsikia Mwarabu akiwa na ghadhabu sababu ya dhahabu yake imechukuliwa na watu hawana adabu.
There goes Ichungwa, waxing lyrical again. And here were the real lyrics. Now, compare that to this. Well.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
I also noticed that in their first song they call themselves Wretched, but that is what's in Amazing Grace. So
they were here to pray for Kenya.
If only, just for a moment, we could all just stop talking a little bit and just put into practice.
Yeah. We've heard that before. The clergyman's body language said it all.
We're just wondering if you have a spare prime minister around.
We have a retired one in Kenya. And
by the way, you've just been given an offer of one. I have a couple more I'd like to donate to you.
Our young people require jobs, even as the DP obsesses with offering the Right Honorable Raila Odinga jobs at every turn.
And where he's concerned, no jokes with Baba's name. Maybe Sifuna ought to know that this man has been traversing in Goland, making them sing and dance. What's going on in the land of Mulembe?
Ukitaka ng'ombe ya siasa kwa bei rahisi, enda Western.
He's saying that Boni, the bullfighter, could now easily pass for a cow, a cheap cow.
Nini namna gani?
And you, Mubea, what's your truth?
I have no apologies to make for this. I've been hard.
By the way, his name Mubea means you are lying in Luhya. Let's try that out.
Quietly, they refer to you as a mafia within ESCC. Because if you are a mafia, why can't you be arrested? Am I above the law?
Back to the gold manenos. It all started with this.
Just know that it's going to be done.
The mobile phone.
What?
And a number of mobile phone-based platforms.
Very, very mobile pronunciations.
Instead of these proliferations.
And Gideon, the son of Toro, got something close to gold. So Murkomen too loves gold.
Gideon, watch out, I rest on his unchanging grace.
Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
Usinyanyaswe na
Saturday's UEFA Champions League final, with Tottenham Hotspur player Victor Wanyama and Liverpool's Divock Origi, son to former Kenyan international Mike Okoth, on opposing teams. Ahead of the biggest game of the Harambee Stars captain's career, Ida Waringa paid a visit to the Lion of Mudhurua's former high school, where the footballing journey started.
Early morning training at the Railway's Landimawe field. This is where it all started for the national football team captain Victor Mugubi Wanyama, who also plays for Tottenham. These training grounds are used by Kamkunji High School, which in years gone by was a powerhouse of Kenyan high school football. Ironically, despite the school being a talent powerhouse, it doesn't have a playing field, instead training on the nearby Landimawe pitch. Aside from Wanyama, his brother and previous Champions League winner McDonald Mariga, as well as former Nantes striker Dennis Olyech, also featured for Kamkunji in its glory days.
It is all about determination and giving in 100%.
Wanyama's story is an inspiration to the boys coming through the ranks at Kamkunji despite the challenges.
Tunafurahia tena sana. Tunaweza. Juani wako shule moja yenye si tuko. Pia tumecheza the same pitch. Yaani tukiona kwa TV pia sisi tunapata ile morale.
Ukiona mtu anafaulu hivyo, tunajua kila kitu inawezekana.
Those who remember Wanyama from his Kamkunji High and Country Bus FC days attribute his success to one thing.
Nimetoka Country Bus FC, ndo timu yenye Wanyama alikuwa akicheza, ndo aonekane aende majuu. Na naweza sema pia nimkuta akitrain hapa kwa hii uwanja, but nimkuta akimalizia akiendanga. Naweza sema discipline yake ilikuwa poa. Alikuwa mtu hard working, alikuwa kuja kwa uwanja mapema, anazunguka kitambo coach wake akuje achukue session hii, alikuwa kuja mapema.
The father was Noah Wanyama, and he was a very great player of Harambee Stars in the 70s. So I can say he instilled discipline to those students.
Aside from Tottenham's Wanyama, Kenya can also claim representation in the Champions League final through Liverpool's Divock Origi. Origi, who was born in Belgium, is the son of former Kenyan international Mike Origi Okoth. He began his career at Ligue 1 side Lille in 2013 and bagged his maiden cap for Belgium in 2014. After numerous loan spells, Origi, who signed for Liverpool in 2014, is enjoying a fabulous season with the Reds scoring to great impact.
Unaweza pia nimebarikiwa kupata kijana wangu anacheza, yeye alizaliwa kule Belgium. So amelelewa kule, lakini alikuwa akija hapa, anakuja siku za mapumziko tunakuja nao familia mzima, so ni mtu anajua nchi yake pia. Victor, mtu kama Mariga, kufika pale wamefika si rahisi, si jambo rahisi. Mimi sikufika katika hiyo kiwango, lakini Ubelgiji pia nilifika. Na kuna shida mingi sana nilipitia mpaka nikafika pale nimefika.
As Wanyama and Origi take to the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium, Kenyans' loyalty will be split.
Kamkunji School, we are in for Tottenham.
Hii ni kama mara yetu ya pili tukiona hii Champions League tukichukua. Kwanza ilikuwa wetu mwingine hapa Mariga, na sasa ni Wanyama. Yenyewe kesho si ni nduru tu hapo.
From Muthurwa to Kamkunji to Madrid, Spain for the Champions League final. From Mugubi's former high school, the message is clear.
Wanyama! 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 Wanyama!
Go, 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 Wanyama. Moving on, the National Sports Fund has come to the aid of government once again in their pledge to honor sports people has been disbursed to complete a process of compensating champions dating back to 2010. President Uhuru Kenyatta rewarded 3,338 athletes to the tune of 181 million shillings owed to them after flying the country's flag in global competitions. Over 3,000 athletes received their cash awards amounting to 181 million shillings for participating in 32 international sporting events dating back to 2010. The money covers participation in Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Championships and the World Under-18 as well as Under-20 junior competitions.
Going forward, this is what we shall be doing. And I believe by so doing, we will be rewarding those men and women who bring glory and pride to our country.
We also want to thank you for the Sports Fund. It has done some amazing
work for the country. We've been able to achieve things that we haven't been able to achieve in many years, and I think they will agree with me that we've been able to support the athletes, we've been able to support our footballers, and we have been able to support our rugby players.
Already, the sports fund has been used to fund the magical Kenya Open Golf Tournament with 200 million shillings, as well as boost the national football team Harambee Stars preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations to the tune of 244 million shillings.
We set up the sports fund in order to be able to bring sports to a new level in our country. There were many challenges, but I pushed it, and we now have it.
Former World Half Marathon champion Jeffrey Kamworor and World 3,000 meter steeplechase record holder Beatrice Chepkoech received the checks on behalf of their colleagues in the ceremony attended by over 140 athletes.
Having created this fund and having given us the responsibility of looking after it, we will keep an eagle eye on the fund. Our responsibility is to ensure that sports is enhanced, and more particularly the athletes, because they really make us proud.
Besides the money owed, the president gave the athletes an additional 2 million shillings personal token of appreciation. The president also directed that sports people be fully facilitated from covering provision of kits, tickets, accommodation to allowances before departing the country to represent the country. More sports people could be rewarded in the near future after the sports ministry was given a 3 months deadline to set up a practical compensation policy for performing sportsmen and women. And Harambee Stars have arrived in Paris, France ahead of their 3-week training camp, which coach Sebastien Mignet is optimistic will serve as a great boost to the squad ahead of their participation at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Cairo, Egypt. According to Mignet, the Paris training camp offers minimal distraction on the players, and in addition to the training, while abroad, Stars will play Madagascar in Paris and DR Congo in Madrid. The traveling team of 27 players will be trimmed further to 23 before they leave for Egypt. And it's crunch time for the national sevens rugby team Shujaa as they fight to avoid relegation in the final leg of the World Rugby Sevens series in Paris. Shujaa will open their Pool B campaign against Australia at 1:06 p.m. before taking on South Africa at 4:10 p.m. Paul Murunga's Chargers will conclude their group ties against relegation-threatened opponents Wales at 7:36 p.m. Kenya needs to better Wales and Japan's performances in Paris as they are separated by 5 points between the teams. Wales are in position 13, while Kenya is in 14th, and Japan occupy the relegation spot. West Indies fast bowlers produced a ruthless display to dismiss Pakistan for a disappointing 105 in the ICC Cricket World Cup. Having elected to field after winning the toss, West Indies made full use of overcast conditions. Ocean Thomas took 4 wickets for 27 runs, while Captain Jason Holder bagged 3 for 42, and then returning Andre Russell got 2 for 4. Pakistan were bowled out in 21.4 overs for their
Join us tomorrow from 9 a.m. as we focus on the Madaraka Day celebrations live from Narok Stadium in Narok County. Coming up is The Trend with Amina Abdi Rabar. Morgan Heritage is in the house, and also MCA Tricky. You do not want to miss this. Bye-bye.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha